Hello my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. Today we want to discuss the pasuk Gilu Bir-Ada. The pasuk tells us, be in ecstasy with trepidation. A big amount of happiness, but while you're having the huge amount of happiness, at the same time have a huge amount of fear. And the question is, it would seem that if a person is in ecstasy, he can at the same time be in, he can at the same time be petrified, or so he can't have this huge fear if he's in ecstasy at the moment. You understand? It's, one would think sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're very happy, and sometimes you're sad, and sometimes you're very sad. But you can't have happy and sad happening at the same time. That's what a person normally would think. And yet, the pasuk is telling us that the ways of the righteous people is that they're Gilu Bir-Ada. At the same time, it says have ecstasy, but at the same time of having ecstasy, be in a petrification state. Now, for regular people, we'll see when we explain it, we try to, do as much as we can in this level, but, you have to be very great to literally have, to literally do it. This is a very high level. But if we could try to understand it, then we could hopefully have it on a lower level. We could have something of it. You understand? We could have this idea, but on a lower level, and hopefully through our life try to go higher and higher. So I believe it's the Ramban that he says, how do you have both at the same time? Says the Ramban, you're afraid of, where is the fear coming? You're afraid to lose the love. And let's just take a simple example in life. I'm thinking probably one of the, we could either use an employee and a boss, or a husband and wife. But let's take husband and wife, and then we'll try to compare also employee and boss. It's just the same idea. A person definitely, the point of marriage is definitely that you should be in love with each other. There's no question about that. Now, could there be a scenario that you're not in love, and then it's, but to get divorced is worse, so you figure out like a business deal how to manage it. Yes. I mean, today people have completely forgot, this aspect of, sometimes you make a mistake, and you have to live with it, because the consequences of breaking it is much worse. So even if it's the same, it's still not. It has to be that there's a lot of margin of it being better afterwards. You understand? So that's why in Judaism it's true. There's the love, there's the connection, but at the same time there's also a ksuba that tells you. It's more what it says on there is more, a lot of the aspects of it is still for today, and some of them is more like in ancient times, but people don't do that today anymore. But because of this was made by our holy sages of ancient times, we don't want to change it. I think maybe there is reason to maybe add on some things, But some people, they don't want to touch it. This is something that was made by the holy sages, and you just leave it the way it was. But the point is the idea of what the Ksuba is telling you. That if, God forbid, you get married to someone, and then you realize you really shouldn't have gotten married together, but now that you're married, and especially if you have a child, now to break it, that might not be the wisest decision. Sometimes you get married, you don't know if you're pregnant, you have to wait a bit, not be together for a little bit and wait and see if there's a child. But usually, for sure, when there's a child, better just to live it out, meaning you learn how to be cordial to each other, and then hopefully love could come in also. But I've heard from people that they said after they got married, within the first week or month, they realized this person really isn't for me. I was however it came about, we have shurim on that, but however it came around that I made such a foolish decision. But that is what happened. I made a foolish decision. So we discuss, how to prevent this from happening. Chashon, God forbid. But if someone is in that situation, you have to stop being together and see, first of all, if there's a child, because you have to know how to calculate. You can't kill the child if you have one. That's considered. If it's after 40 days, the level it's considered as if you killed a complete human being. If it's before 40 days, it's a grave sin, but it doesn't go under the category of killing a live person. It's a grave sin, but anything. When you go to Gehenna, people will wish that all the, if you sinned, you didn't have to sin so much. You understand? You didn't have to completely forget about everything. You understand? If someone's sinning, try to minimize it until, so don't just say, because I did a sin, now I'll do endless amounts of sin. That's not, when you get to Gehenna, you're going to wish every sin that you really didn't have to do. You just did it because you just threw everything out the window. You're going to wish that you didn't do it. So any sin, the smallest sin, you're going to wish you never did it. There's no sin, you understand? And as the sins go up and up, it's it's hell, literally. So you don't want to be in there, no matter, you don't want to be anywhere in there, You don't want to live in just think about it. People don't want to live in a dangerous neighborhood. It's dangerous. People get shot. People get held up. People get knifed. There's certain places in the world that you live there, people could just pull out a knife on you, and and all of a sudden you're in the middle of a sword fight. Hopefully you have a knife to defend yourself. No one wants to live there. Gehenna, this is nothing compared to Gehenna. You understand? The lowest level in Gehenna, this is nothing compared to it. Just walking through Gehenna, there is like high-level tzaddikim that they really didn't. The Rishim of Chet is so little that they just literally walk through Gehenna. Like some place in there they walk through. Just that is worse than being in a bad place. Being in a city with people that are dangerous. You understand? So, we shouldn't take it lightly in any way. Now, so getting back to a person, you don't want any part of that. Now, coming back to Gilu Ber'ada. So how do you have this? How do you have... so we were saying that a wife, right? Hopefully it's love. Hopefully you didn't just jump into it, like a brainless child, you understand? And you have love between you and your wife, or you and your husband. Now, sometimes you have a bad day. You have a really bad day, and at this particular moment, you could be ticked off very easily. Now, your wife does just that. She's just being herself. Sometimes women don't realize what they're doing, but they could very easily tick people off, and they don't understand. You understand? You have to have a talk with them, but you didn't have that talk. And maybe you did, and she still did it. You understand? Because she's a girl. It takes time, for her to make herself more refined. So she ticked you off, right? And it could be even something that you shouldn't be ticked off about. But since you're so tense, you just imagined that she meant this and that you got ticked off. It doesn't make a difference whose fault it is. The point is, you're ticked off. Now, in that moment, you really want to say something. Whether it's a he or a she, you really want to say something. But if you say it, you're going to affect the marriage, your bond that you have with them. So because of that huge fear of losing your relationship, you don't say it. That's what Gilu Bir'ata is that your relationship is so deep, your love is so deep, that you're afraid that when it comes to losing it, it's not like a friend. I won't be his friend anymore. There could be a big love there, but there's no fear of losing that love. But when it comes to a spouse, there is that big fear of losing that love. Hashem says that's the connection that we are supposed to have. If you're not having it, there's something wrong. You understand? So that is the understanding. Again, by a friend, it could be difficult. A person is more likely they're having a good connection between two people, but you're not afraid of losing that relationship, or you're not too much. It could be hurtful a bit, but you throw it off pretty easy if the guy, it's much, you could break it. It's not the end of the world in your mind. However, when it's a spouse, and now you could ruin that relationship, that is the end of the world. So that is what the pasuk is telling us, and that's the type of connection Hashem has with us, and He wants us to have that with Him. Because remember, when we're connected to Hashem, we're connected to the source of all good, and then we become good. We become better. And that's what Hashem wants. Because if you're really connected to Hashem, people that are really connected to Hashem, they treat people better. And that's the point. Hashem, He doesn't need our connection. But the reason why He wants it is because He wants you to be a good person to others and to realize what He's doing for you. When Hashem wants something, not every want is a need. You understand? And not every need is because you're needy. You understand? It's because you're lacking if you don't have it. You could want an ice cream. You understand? But it doesn't mean that if you don't have that ice cream, you're somehow less. You understand? And by Hashem, He could say that I want a nation to serve me on this earth, but at the same time, if you don't, that need is not because He is in some way not all powerful. It's nothing to do with that. It's because Hashem says, I do goodness and I want to create goodness, and I want you to do goodness and be thankful for me that gives you that ability. You understand? But let's say a person didn't, right? A lot of people in this world, there's a huge amount of them that are really not, really not being thankful to Hashem. Let's just put it that way. They're really bad people. They're still living. Hashem doesn't need you to do it in a way that he's not all powerful without that, but he wants you. His need is for you. Because if you do it, then you become a better person. If you're thankful to him, that makes you a better person. If you're close to him, that makes you treat other people proper. That's what Chazal tell us, that tzaddikim marbim shalom ba'olam, that tzaddikim increase the peace in the world. And a person has to know, if they're not doing that, then it could be they're trying to be a tzaddik. Lots of times that's a clear sign that the person is not a tzaddik, he's a faker. But today I would say, in many, many scenarios, it could be the person wants to be a tzaddik, but he has the wrong he is brought up wrong. He has the wrong teachings of what is a tzaddik, and that's making him act in this way, which he thinks is a tzaddik, but really it's not, and it's against peace. I love you all, and Hashem loves you more.